today I have joining me the Media Relations Officer for the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, Pa Kwesi Shandoff. You're welcome, Shandoff.
Yeah, good morning. It's a pleasure.
Shandoff, well, first off, congratulations for the role that you occupy, and also, how is it going so far?
So far, it's been okay. Of course, there are a lot of very crucial issues to engage, but it's been fine.
It's been fine. Great.
Fine.
Let's start from Blue Water Guards, and then we'll come down to some more conversation on Galamsey. Some over 400 persons have been deployed to go and help in the fight against Galamsey Blue Water Guards. I'm sure you saw the commentary on social media how some medical they thought that it's a job for the boys. So far, have we seen any results from the Blue Water Guards? Is there anything to report from the ministry?
All right. So first off, let me take the opportunity to say a very good morning to you once again, and for all of our listeners as well. Yeah, I saw the comments, the reactions to that particular intervention, and I don't think they are well situated, because those individuals who have been deployed in that particular enterprise, they are not working alone. If they were working isolatedly, then perhaps we could have the concern about their efficiency. But they are working in collaboration with the armed, security personnel who are also part of the whole establishment. And so it doesn't sit well for anybody to assume that these are unresourced civilians who are going to fight a very crucial battle. Indeed, the military is complementing their efforts. We also have police personnel who are joining consistently, and so they are not on their own, so to speak. And that is how come, by way of results, their monitoring and their evaluation so far has actually been very successful. As I speak to you, they are keeping a very watchful look on the water bodies and even some of the surrounding forest reserves. If I have to scale them, evaluate them out of 10, for example, based on the feedback and the reports that we have, it wouldn't be out of place to say that they are doing as much as 9 over 10, right? So it's not a white elephant. It's not a needless intervention like some have portrayed, because, again, for the sake of emphasis, they are not working on their own. Their efforts are being complemented by the police and the military alike, and therefore we should, believe in them, because they are devoting themselves to help the cause, and I think there's no need for anybody to actually ridicule them.
Well, in believing in them, we know that this fight is a very big one, and a fight that we need to win as a country. It's for this reason that many have called for the declaration of a state of emergency. When the government was in opposition, one thing that the government trumpeted was that President Akufo-Addo then should declare a state of emergency. This is not too difficult as a president to declare it, and that when you assume office, you would expeditiously do that. It's been 6 months already, and Ghanaians are worried. Ghanaians are asking, when is government declaring a state of emergency? Because we saw the swiftness with which government has passed certain bills and all. But this thing that affects our water bodies, affects our land, affects our very lives, we are not seeing so much from there. What is stopping the declaration of a state of emergency?
So first off, we need to put on record that nothing is stopping the declaration of a state of emergency. Absolutely nothing. Except that I have had cause to state on other platforms that, as commendable or as laudable as that path or intervention may be, if it is not complemented by practical measures, then it may as well be much ado about nothing. Because let's look at it very practically. If today a state of emergency were to be declared as we speak, of course it was going to send a lot of very instructive signals to illegal miners and all stakeholders that government is deeply committed to the fight. But if you come out with such a pronouncement and you don't have tangible policies to give effect to the state of emergency that you have declared, optically it may look inviting, it may look blissful, but in terms of practicality, you may not be doing anything. And that is why the approach that the ministry is deploying is to, first of all, outline a raft of very crucial interventions across board. when all of those interventions have been well pillared and firmed up, then you can go ahead and, if it is still a necessity at that particular point, you declare a state of emergency. Because if you don't do it, and I understand the sentiments, well, of course, because the government of the now, then the opposition, raised a lot of concerns around that, and so there is the expectation that immediately it should be declared. But if you did that now and you don't have viable policy interventions to actually deal with the issues on the ground, somebody was explaining to me, a friend, he said that if you declare a state of emergency without accompanying policies, maybe you end up throwing the country into rather a state of confusion. Why? Because you have declared a state of emergency, there are no accompanying structures to give effect to it. And let me reiterate the analogy I explained on a sister platform. I did say, for example, that you're a Christian. Let's assume that we are entering into a new year, right? A new year, and then somebody goes to church, and the person makes a very passionate commitment to live a pious life. So let's say it's 31st of December 2020, let's say 2024, we are crossing into 2025. The individual comes out to say that, look, in 2025, I'm going to forgo all manner of wrongdoing. I'm going to live a very purified and sacrilegious life. Then the person comes out openly to tell the whole world that this is what I am going to do. But after making that declaration, that individual does not, excuse himself from his vile association. Let's assume that he rode with people who are morally bankrupt. After that declaration, he's still in that particular company. If he had other sinful indulgences, if he's still involved and has not departed from them, what would be the effect or the materiality of that particular declaration, having come out to say that for this particular year I'm living a very pious life, when in actual sense he has not taken the relevant steps to redefine his whole life? It would be much ado about nothing. It would be a vague profession of righteousness, but in actual fact nothing to support it. And that's the same thing. If you go ahead and declare, okay, as important or needful as it may be, if you declare without any practical measures on the ground, what do you think would happen?
You've had 6 months in government. The minister was very swiftly vetted and giving the nod to start the work that he is doing. 6 months, what are the measures? You talk about practical measures to be able to cushion whatever would arise after the state of emergency, but we do not have time. Our water bodies don't have time, our lands don't have time, our trees don't have time. The children that are birthed with deformities don't have time. The cyanide in the water keeps seeping into the land, the mercury keeps seeping into the land, and so we do not have time. It's been 6 months. If you want to put in measures to address the situation, what are those measures? When should we expect those measures so that we can indeed call for some decisive action on this?
The measures are actually in place. As I speak, they are being implemented. So I'm going to take you through it. But just to respond to the concern about timeliness, the truth of the matter is that the extent of devastation that we have now, and if you may, I would apprise you on how polluted our water bodies and, let's say, our land reserves, are at the moment. We have a total of 288 forest reserves across board. Out of these 288, 44 have been impacted out of the 288. Now, in this 44, you have some 8 which previously were not in the custody of the state. Of course, we've been able to retrieve them, but there is still 1 outstanding. In fact, there are 9 red spots. 8 have been retrieved out of the impacted 44. So now it's only 1 that is currently outstanding. If you did an analysis of the total expanse of land that has been depleted, you are looking at about some 5,000 hectares of land, and we have had cause to paint the picture to say that it is equivalent to some 7,000 or more football fields. That's the extent of devastation. I am drawing your attention to the depth of the degradation so that we begin to think again about the timelines. If this is the situation that any government meets, would it be fair for anyone to expect the reclamation or relevant interventions to see material results within a space of 6 months? We are looking at about 7,500 football pitches that have been depleted. Think of a pitch as even Elwak Sports Stadium right here. I mean, let's even just use Elwak, or even let's use more prominently, the Accra Sports Stadium. You are looking at about 7,500 of those which have been adversely impacted. How can anybody, any government, no matter how resourceful the government may be, address and restore, that depletion in a matter of 6 months?
So maybe the addressing will have to start with the declaration.
No, it would not have to start with the declaration, because if you declared, like I've explained, if you declared without the accompanying policies, then effectively you are going nowhere. So I am coming to the policy, to the policies, what we are doing, and we have characterized and labeled it as the 5-prong approach. It's a raft of interventions that, I mean, a part of it is ongoing. I mean, the rest would take shape as we progress. Now, the first aspect of that approach is, first of all, a redefinition of the licensing regime. And that is very important, because that is what the licenses give room for the miners to operate in the very first place. Okay, so what we are doing is that we are redefining, or we are reforming that whole regime. And the reformation involves a withdrawal of licenses which of course are defective, those ones which have not been beneficial, and then we are even tightening the mechanism. In that same space of reformation, we are also considering a possible revision of the relevant mining laws and regulations, and that is where the controversial LI 2462 comes in.
Which will be coming to.
Of course, we will be coming to. So maybe when we get there, we'll talk about it. But when it comes to the reformation of the licensing regime, we are looking at reviewing licenses that have been given out, making the process more stringent and tight, and then of course would consider some possible overhaul of some legislations. After that, we are also embarking on a massive reclamation campaign. Reclamation, for the sake of those who may not understand, or those who are watching and do not know what it is. Basically, parcels of land that have been depleted, the attempts to bring them into their pristine state is basically reclamation. That's what we are doing. And that it has already started. It's part of the Tree for Life initiative. Okay, so you are looking at a reformation of the regime, you are doing land reclamation, and then we are also embarking on there is also a policy that is focusing on the provision of alternative livelihood, because for most of the illegal miners, or a good number of them, they believe that their participation is influenced by their lack of economic venture. There is nothing for them to do. They have to survive, and therefore they go into the forest and do whatever they want to do. What we are doing in response to such individuals is to offer them alternative means of livelihood. NALEP has been in operation. Currently, it has been revised, and we are tweaking it a little. After the tweaking, I'm sure we'll roll out a full, the policy to. Let me touch on the last two. I mean, I've done three. So, reformation of the licensing, reclamation, provision of alternative livelihood, and then we are also looking at deepening education, because a good number of people, especially in our local communities, do not even understand why they are not supposed to, as it were, indulge in illegal mining in the first place. Some even believe, I've had cause to explain, that some actually believe that even if you depleted the land, Mother Earth was very powerful, and Mother Earth could, reclaim or revive itself. So there's a lot of ignorance and, or if I have to put it more lightly, limited information about the devastation itself. And so education is equally important. And then the last of all is the enforcement of strict security monitoring. And that is connected to all the swoops that we have been doing, law enforcement. In fact, over the last 1 week, there have been 3 instructive swoops that have taken place across the eastern, the central, and then the western regions. And all of them have given us very significant results in the nature of the arrest and the seizures and all of that. Put all of these 5 methods, or all of these 5 policies together, constituting the 5-prong approach, then you know that clearly we are going somewhere. And so if we monitor this for a while, or we insist on the rollout for a particular period, then if you are declaring a state of emergency, logically it would make a certain degree of sense, because then you are not just making a declaration in a vacuum. It's being supported by actionable policies, and that's where we are really.
Shandolph, these policies and all are not new policies that we have not seen before. the previous government started issues like these, this education of it, and or the sensitization and or the community engagement and or look into community mining and all. Shandoff, doesn't it look like we keep marking time and reinventing the wheel over and over again? Like we're giving the miners an opportunity to be also lax, because the question is, we are saying that they do not have jobs, that's why they are mining. Could we also say that people don't have jobs, that's why they are also engaged in armed robbery? And so we need to get them jobs. Let's not be too hard on them. Let's get them jobs. And when we get them jobs, we will be able to wean them away from armed robbery or any other
the fact that we are providing alternative livelihood does not mean that we are allowing the degradation to go on unattended to. Indeed, arrests have been affected all the time. All the time we are arresting people who are depleting our land reserves. And so it's not as if we are having a very relaxed disposition towards them. As much as we are constructing other viable economic ventures for them, while they are breaching the regulations, we are still dealing with them at the same time. And so it's that. Yes, you are creating room for them, but you are not also allowing them to do as they please. As to whether or not what we are doing is novel or otherwise, I think the issue is really about the intensity of the approach. If you ask me, from my observation of the fight against illegal mining all over the years, what I have realized is that more often than not, political will has not been present. And that is the single most important ingredient or element that would facilitate any meaningful results where the fight against illegal mining is concerned. Absolutely. What we have is a president, as of now, we have a president, the President of the Republic, who has consistently repeated that he has a policy of zero tolerance. But beyond that, he has instructed his appointees, and it's even part of the code of conduct for appointees just a second, that anybody who wants to be engaged in that particular enterprise is forbidden. Beyond that, the sector minister himself is also committed in that particular respect. And maybe we don't have the time. Otherwise, I would have taken you through the several, not only verbal declarations, the many things that the minister has done by way of posture and conduct that shows that there is that commitment. If we have the commitment, if the commitment is visibly
the
present.
Former president Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo put his presidency on the line, and we saw how far this fight went. He said the president, John Dramani Mahama, has zero tolerance for those who will be engaged in it. But the most important out of all that we've talked about, the plethora of things that we've spoken about, is the revocation of LI 2462. Again, so much has been said about it, and the base of it is that when we come into power, we will revoke LI 2462, a legislative instrument that allows for mining in some reserves if the president gives the opportunity. Let me read it. A person shall not issue a license or permit to any person to undertake mining activity, including exploration activity, in the following areas: a globally significant biodiversity area, protected provenance area, an institutional research plot, a hill sanctuary, a high conservation value area, a sea orchid, swamp sanctuary, plantation sites, and cultural sites. 2. Despite paragraph A of the sub-regulation, the president may, subject to Article 268 of the Constitution, give approval in writing to a mining company to undertake mining activity in a globally significant biodiversity area in the national interest. What we are seeing, is it in the national interest? Second, President Mahama has been in office for 6 months so far, and if that was not enough, we have seen the repeal of some taxes, very swift repeal. The president said on various platforms that he would repeal LI 2462. His spokesperson, Felix Kwachiofosu, was on another station very emphatic that President Mahama will swiftly, and I use the word swiftly, repeal it. Sami Jemfi, who is now leading Gold Board, mentioned that when Parliament reconvenes, they will swiftly immediately look into repealing LI 2462. These are three strong persons when it comes to this fight. It's been 3 weeks after parliamentary convening. We've not heard any conversation about LI 2462. Why? Where is the political will you're talking about?
So it's not true that we've not had any updates, or there has not been any conversation around LI 2462. In fact, they have, except that maybe you are not comfortable with what is being done, and maybe I would have to take you through it. So a repeal was announced. What we have done now is to amend, and the portion that has been amended, it's very, I mean, just yesterday I was looking at the amendments, the section 3.2 that has been amended, and I was tempted to think that is equivalent to, and I'm saying it advisedly, I was tempted to think that, I mean, is this particular amendment not equivalent to an actual repeal? Why? Because the portion that has been amended is the portion that gives the LI 2462 was enacted in November 2022. In that section 3.2, the environment minister and the president have exclusive rights to grant, permits for people to mine in forest reserves. As of now, in the proposed amendments, currently, the president does not have that right again. Indeed, the minister doesn't have that right, and nobody has that right. So logically, the question we should be asking is that if the executive president of the republic does not have the right to grant any permits to anybody to enter any forest reserve to mine, including the sector ministers, who else can do that?
Shandoff.
If the president of the republic, I mean, he's the most powerful. I mean, by the operation of our constitution, he himself, in the spirit and the essence of the amendment, is bad compared to previously where the president had that discretion. As of now, President John Dramani Mahama does not have that discretion.
But what is stopping
so if the president doesn't have, if the president doesn't have that discretion, the minister doesn't have it. Nobody has that discretion. I mean, logically, we should begin to think who else can then enter any mining reserve under the circumstances. If I have to put it practically, and I hope this analogy is very meaningful. For instance, we are living in a house. There is the owner of the facility, the landlord for that matter. There is a parcel there is a certain section of the house where the landlord himself is forbidden from entering. If the landlord, the owner of the facility himself, who has exclusive rights over that expanse and jurisdiction, is forbidden from entering that particular space, can the tenant or anybody at all enter that particular space?
What did government tell us ahead of coming into
I think we should be looking at substance here. Now, if you repealed, hold on, I'm coming.
If you would,
I will. Just a second. Let me finish the explanation. If you repealed, what's going to be the effect of the repeal? The effect of the repeal would simply mean that nobody would have access to the mining reserves. I mean, the forest reserves,
and
right?
That's what we want.
Exactly. Now you have amended a portion of LI 2462 that even forbids the president, the sector minister, or anybody at all from entering. The question I'm saying we should ask is that if the president himself, is forbidden, the sector minister and every other person, I mean relevant individual, is prevented or barred by the essence and the spirit of the amendment from accessing or giving permit for mining activities to occur in any forest reserve, who else can go there?
If it is the same, what then stops the president from ensuring that this is repealed? If it is the same, if the two are the same, if you say that we want to get out of this door, and you say, oh, next time we'll lock the door. Now you tell us that now we will not lock the door, but we'll tell the person who opens the door not to open it.
If
you tell us it's the same,
if I promise,
what stops you from repealing it?
If I promise to come and give you lunch in the afternoon, for example, and the initial promise was to serve you in a bowl, and then when the time came, I come and then I serve you in other packaged material other than a bowl, essentially for the fact that you would be eaten, you would enjoy the meal and you'll be satisfied. What really should be the concern, provided the ultimate objective is achieved, which is the satisfaction, your satisfaction? That is the most important thing. The approach was to abrogate the whole LI. That was not the objective. That was not the objective. That was the vision that was communicated. And what was the essence of the vision? To prevent mining in forest reserves. Now, even the president cannot do it. If even the president himself cannot do it, the sector minister, in LI 2462, initially, the environment minister had that discretion as well. In fact, the environment minister was the one who would review the license, the mining license requests that had come, and then the president would give the final executive approval. These two frameworks have now been removed. So the question we should be asking is
what is the end
who
game?
else?
What
the
is
end game? The end game is that effectively nobody can enter any mining reserve.
Now that it's amended,
I'm coming.
Now let me put in a word now.
Now this is what happens. Anybody who may want to indulge in that enterprise would have to now go through Parliament, where the scrutiny is more rigorous. Apart from Parliament, the Minerals Commission as well. Previously, what we had was very discretionary. Maybe I don't want to believe you are not getting. I don't want to believe you are not getting the picture.
No, I am. Because so what if they go through Parliament? The scrutiny is there, and Parliament still gives them the opportunity. In repealing, then it would have been taken away at all, fully. But in amending, you're given room. You're still given some room where anybody could meander their way and be able to do what they want. But stakeholders
in the parliament that we have,
and you have a very overwhelming majority in Parliament.
That's the point that I was coming to. That in the parliaments that we have, in the current parliament that we have, of course, the NDC has the numbers, but there is also the other side. Okay, looking at how rigorous the work of Parliament is and the scrutiny that the NPP is churning daily, you really think here in this country that one day we would wake up and then Parliament would come out and say that it has given room for people to go and mine?
In amending
it's the practicality. I don't think it's a development that would ever manifest. That possibility is very far-fetched.
But you never know.
No, but it is far-fetched.
But you never know.
As much as we may not be able to conclude with certainty, it is also highly improbable for Parliament.
But you don't know what will happen in the 10th Parliament, in the 11th Parliament. Even in this Parliament from now onwards, it's just been 6 months in government. If you had repealed it, it takes away powers from anybody to even look into this matter. Now you've amended it where anybody can test it. You can test it. Tomorrow, Parliament may sit again and decide that, okay, we are amending the LI again to suit this side. But these are stakeholders, civil society, that have constantly spoken about the matter. I believe government, whilst in opposition, found some merit in the conversations that were had, to the point where you thought to lend your voice to the fight against Galamsey and said that we would repeal LI 2462. And so if it is a government that is bent on holding its words, why would you disappoint the many Ghanaians who voted you into power in hopes that you would repeal this LI that grants permission for people to mine in our forest reserves, mining that is affecting our water bodies, our food, and our lives?
What we first of all have to recognize is the fact that the government is only 6 months old in office. Okay, so logically, we know that there is still more time for governments to run. Okay, we have not come to the end of the tenure for anybody to say that, oh, LI 2462 was not repealed. We have not come to that particular point. All right, it is only in somebody tells you that I'm going to repeal a law. 6 months, the person has made a very vital amendment to that promised repeal, and so we have 3 years, 6 months more. Okay, that should be a valid indication of the person's commitment to the repeal. So in 3 years, 6 months, you will repeal it? No, I'm coming. I'm saying that should be a very... The deduction is very obvious. I mean, if I tell you that I'm going to give you 10,000 Ghana cedis in a month, all right, and by the first week, I've already made a transfer of 7,000 Ghana cedis to you, it would not be fair for you to think that I would not redeem my promise, all right? And so it's very bewildering when we hear people think that the government has disappointed. I think the government has not disappointed yet, especially when the current amendment, if you ask me, in substance, it is just like a repeal. Because again, if the president cannot previously,
it is not.
It actually is in a lot of ways.
The amendment is the repeal.
No, those are your words. So you had the president who had absolute discretion. You had a minister who also was part of that, discretionary arrangement. Now we do not have that. The question I am asking is that if you are a homeowner, for example, okay, you have a family, you are the homekeeper, you have a family as a mother, and then there is a particular bowl or plate that you are saying that even you cannot touch it. What where would your children come from?
You know that stubborn children who
how
still
would they,
touch that.
how would they? No, of course. Now anybody.
So what if we take away
when
that
it comes
rule?
to it would not remove disobedience. I mean, there are laws in the country that forbid armed robbery, they forbid all sorts of wrong practices. People still go ahead. So when they break the boundaries, you deal with them. It's as simple as that.
So if you took out this whole law that civil society calls perverse, and it was not there at all.
You think you...
that's why I'll use your same analogy. The ball is there.
But you see...
And you say that mommy and daddy are not touching the ball.
Even if it is not there, okay? Even if the law were to be repealed, which of course it's not a conversation that the government has eliminated. But even if it is repealed, I don't think it is your suggestion that illegal mining was going to stop immediately.
But people it will be a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And it will also take away the powers from anybody. You just told me that.
But right now, I'm saying that
if somebody wants to,
if
somebody wants to, they can go through Parliament. Repeal it so that nobody has to go through anywhere. If that ball, we use your analogy again, if the ball were not there, and the ball was the bone of contention where the kids want to touch, and then you say that mommy and daddy cannot take that ball, so your children cannot also take the ball. Now the ball is not there at all. Where is that ball that your child will go and pick? Now there's nothing to pick up. Is there?
You see,
there.
Hold on. No. Now, if that ball were not there, okay, if that ball were not there at all, the point I'm making is that it doesn't mean that the absence of that specific ball would necessarily mean that your children would not want to toy or fidget with any other item in the kitchen. That's the point. It is not cast in stone. I get the impression.
So you're telling us that even if it is repealed, those who still want to mine will find ways of mining. Is that what you're saying?
Don't we have the police mounting surveillance in the country? I mean, in the evening at vantage points, and still armed robbery goes on.
But
the point is that no, these comparisons are valid. They may appear simplistic, but they are valid because the fact that you are repealing, and you see, that's why, like I was saying, that rolling out very practical measures is really the way to go. Because look, after state of emergency, I'm a friend of it, but I have had cause to explain that if you declare a state of emergency today and you didn't have viable policy interventions, maybe you may end up just doing nothing. So
what end will we continue to skirt around the issue? To what end will we continue to want to satisfy so many boxes, tick so many boxes, until we take a very decisive action against Galamsey? Where do we have to get to hear from the ministry and from the presidency that these are actions against the fight against Galamsey, the actions for the fight against Galamsey, a state of emergency, the repeal of the LI 2460, so that we know that our forest reserves, nobody can even use any avenue to enter?
That time will come.
When will it?
It's a matter of time. That time will come. You see, I want you to be very... Okay, maybe you do not want to be fair, but if you have to be... I
don't want to be fair.
Yes, but if you want to be fair at all, the point I'm making is that somebody promised to repeal a particular LI, all right? In 6 months, a very central component of the defective LI has been removed. How do you doubt the eventual repeal?
So should I ask?
President
Mahama has 4 years in government.
Absolutely, he has 4 years in government. Now, if you were to even do the proportioning, if in 6 months a crucial provision in the LI has been removed, then in the next 6 months we could be nearing what everybody is applauding. It's a possibility, and that's why. Again, like I'm saying, not to say that we are being hasty, but it's unfair for anybody to assume that the president or the ministry or the minister is relaxing on this posture, especially when in 6 months, now nobody has that discretionary power. And if the president himself, the head of state and the minister do not have the discretion that existed, who else? I think maybe you can answer that question if I'm in a position to ask you, who else can do that? If the president cannot go, if the president cannot grant that exclusive right, the minister cannot, who?
Well, so Shando, finally, we've done 6 months, 3 years, 6 months, like you say. The minister, we do not know how long he will be minister at the Ministry for Lands and Natural Resources. You've outlined so many policies that you're doing even before a state of emergency could be declared. And so what are the things or the policies that have also been outlined following the amendment of the LI 2462? What should we be expecting?
No, but I think that's what I was hammering on earlier. The 5-prong approach that we are employing. Basically,
that also applies to the LI 2462.
Yeah, it does, because I'm saying that you see, reclamation, provision of alternative livelihood, strengthening education, effecting arrest, and all of those. That you see, the emphasis of LI 2462, the real meat of the matter, is for the preservation of the mining reserves. Yes or no? That's the crux of the issue. So any intervention that is pointing in that direction should be applauded and commended.
Right. Shandoff, thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure is all mine.
Shandoff, Pakwesi Shandoff is the Media Relations Officer for the Ministry for Lands and Natural